Hey everybody, Crow back again with our Evercade video. This time we're going to be looking at the Atari Lynx Collection 2. This has 8 games in it, and you may be wondering, why does this only have 8 games in it when the previous collection had 17 Lynx games in it? And I believe that's down to whoever owns the publishing rights to those games at this moment. I think maybe most, if not all of the games, the publishing rights were owned by Songbird Productions in that collection. In this collection, all these games were created by Epix. So I don't know if there's still Epix is still around or who owns the rights to those games. And I think that's why they're on 2 separate collections. And if you were unaware, Epix was actually the company that originally designed the Lynx. And originally, they had named it the Epix Handy Boy, but they ran out of money. They were unable to release it on their own, so they were looking to sell the design of the system to another company. Atari bought it up, rebranded it as the Lynx. So that's why possibly these games are going to be better than the ones in Atari Collection 1, because the people who designed the system were the ones that designed the games for this as well. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through each of these games one at a time. I'm going to give it a rank or a rating from 1 to 5. A 5 is what I feel is a great game. It's a game that I really enjoyed. There'd be very little I'd want to change about it. A 4 is what I consider to be a good game, game I still enjoyed a lot, but there may be a little bit here or there that I would want to change to make it a great game. A 3 is what I consider to be an okay game. Maybe it's a game that's not for me, or it's a game I'm a little bit on the fence about and I can't decide whether or not I like it or not. A 2 is what I consider to be a poor game. It's a game that I kind of didn't like, I really didn't like, but I could see some merit to maybe going back and playing it again. Maybe there's just something I really don't get about the game. And a 1 is what I consider to be a bad game. It's a game I'm like, why did they even put this on the Evercade? And it's a game I just don't want to go back to and play again. Very rarely do I give a game a rating of a 1. But also, I'm ranking these games as they are being played on the Evercade, not on the original hardware. So features like save states would be a big advantage for that. But however, there is no multiplayer, so that could be a detriment. Also, these are just my own opinions. I'm not going for any sort of common consensus here. Just solely what I think about these games. So, with all that being said, let's jump into our first game on this cartridge. First up in this collection is Blue Lightning, a game that seems to draw heavy inspiration from Sega's Afterburner. You fly the titular Blue Lightning from stage to stage, accomplishing the objectives Mission Control sets out for you. This mostly consists of taking out the enemy aircraft and the land and sea targets. As I learned the hard way, the game will not continue unless you complete the objectives laid out for you. At your disposal, you'll have standard gunfire, guided missiles, afterburners, and the ability to do barrel rolls. It seemed like it would be weird to have to hit the Evercade start button to do a barrel roll, but the placement actually makes it more convenient than I thought it would be. After the first mission, you'll have to start taking out ground targets, and at first it doesn't seem like an issue since you cannot fly your aircraft into the ground. But the real challenge is then flying low to the ground while avoiding the environmental structures. One level even has you flying deep into a canyon with no way to fly up high enough to escape. I bring up the cliff walls and other obstacles for a reason. You start with 5 lives, and if you get shot down by enemy fire, you lose a life, but you continue from where you got shot down. However, if you crash into the environment like a cliff wall, not only do you lose a life, but you have to start the whole level again. I found this pretty frustrating because in some levels it can be hard to gauge where the walls and obstacles may be due to the scaling of the Lynx and the limited color palette, and you might find yourself flying into something without even realizing it was there. I mean, overall the game is fun, but the chunky graphics do hurt it a bit, especially if you're meant to be shooting ground targets since they can be difficult to spot. I'll say this game is good though and give it a 4. The second game is the popular title California Games, which I believe was a packing game for the Lynx when it was originally released. This is a compilation of mini-games comprising of events that would have been popular in Southern California at the time. There are 4 events on offer here, though I believe other versions of this game had more. In each event, you try to score as many points as possible before running out of time or attempts. The events are as follows. BMX, which is basically controlling a guy as he rides a bike down an obstacle course. You could do jumps and flips to score points, but being careless will get you thrown from the bike. Surfing is pretty simple, as all you need to do is control the surfer with the D-pad to make him do jumps and spins off the giant wave. You'll fall off your board if you don't land correctly or if you go too far down on the screen. Halfpipe is a skateboarding event, and as much as I try, I cannot figure out exactly how to play this one for the life of me. It's all about timing, I suppose, and I get too frustrated at this before I figure out much about it, so let's just move on. Lastly is footbag, where you control a guy as he keeps the footbag up in the air as long as possible while performing spins and maneuvers to score more points. Now, all in all, I'll say this game as a whole is just okay and give it a 3. Some of the games are fun, while others are not. The main problem here is that these types of games are more fun in a competition setting, but all we get here are high scores to chase. Game 3 is Checkered Flag, and I was really looking forward to trying this one out. Based on what I saw, I was hoping for something in the vein of Pole Position, and you know what? This game certainly did not disappoint. Not only did it not disappoint, but it exceeded every expectation I had. This game is very impressive for a handheld game from 1991. To start with, you get a plethora of options: practice, single races, or a tournament. You could also choose whether or not you want to do a qualifying lap to determine your position, select how many opponents you want to race against, and there's something like 18 different tracks to choose from with a wide variety of environments. Not only that, but you could choose automatic, 4-speed, or even 7-speed manual transmission, the color of your car, and oddly enough, whether or not you want to be a male or a female. That last option actually affects the cutscenes after the races and the final tournament scene, wherein male drivers get a trophy and a kiss from a bikini-clad woman, but the female drivers get a trophy and a kiss from a buff dude in bikini briefs. And I was just not expecting that the first time I saw it. I just find it utterly amazing the detail they put into this when it has no effect on the gameplay whatsoever. And speaking of the gameplay, it's utterly fantastic. I have absolutely no complaints. I never felt like the game was cheating me, as every crash and mistake felt like my own. Hitting objects on the side of the road head on will bring you to a dead stop, but you can also graze them, only slowing you down a little bit. A nice touch is that your side mirror will also show damage as well if you hit something. Shifting is done by pressing up or down on the D-pad, but it never felt like it was difficult or interfered with the steering of the vehicle. Honestly, this is one of the best racing games I've played from the era, and it easily gets a 5 from me. The fourth game is Chip's Challenge, and though this game has been on several platforms and I knew it was highly regarded, it was a game I'd never played before now. You play as Chip, who wants to join the Bitbusters Club, but before he's allowed to join, he has to solve puzzles to find exits to a plethora of levels. Some levels require collecting all the computer chips before removing the main blockage guarding the exit, but some levels have no chips and have some other trick to getting to the end. In some levels, you'll need to collect items to negate certain obstacles in order to proceed, like color-coded keys for doors, spiked shoes for ice, fire and water shields for fire and water tiles, and magnets in order to navigate conveyor belts. There are also movable blocks which may be hiding items, or can be pushed into bombs to remove them, or pushed into water to create a new path. With all these different possibilities, it's really no surprise surrounding the creativity of these levels. Some levels will require some thought, while others will require trial and error to pass, and still in others you'll need to race a timer or navigate a maze of some kind. There's really a good variety here, and although some levels may be quite lengthy or somewhat tedious to complete, you'll never have to worry about running out of lives, as you can restart the level as many times as you want. And while you do get a code for each level, with the Evercade you don't really have to worry about that, since you could just use the save states instead. And I was actually using save states during some of the more longer and more tedious levels, just in case I made a slip up so I wouldn't have to start all over again. Chip's Challenge winds up being a fantastic puzzle game that winds up being a perfect fit for the Evercade. It easily gets a 5. Hey buddy, at this point in the video we are halfway through the game list, so if you're enjoying it, please consider giving it a thumbs up. Thanks. Game 5 is Electrocop, which was originally released in 1989. When an evil robot kidnaps the president's daughter and holds her hostage in the old Megacorp Research and Development building, it's up to you, a cop on loan to Megacorp, to infiltrate the building, navigate the maze-like structure, defeat the evil robot, and rescue the president's daughter, all within an hour. This game is actually quite interesting in how it plays. As Electrocop, you navigate from room to room, dispatching any evil robots while navigating any traps and obstacles you come across along the way. You're given a generous life bar, and though your weapons will degrade and become useless over time, new weapons can occasionally be picked up. Locked doors and blocked passageways are usually accompanied by a computer terminal, which can be accessed where Electrocop can heal himself, repair weapons, and run an icebreaker program on the door to crack the code that will let him through. Cracking the code may take some time though, so you can leave if you want and explore the level more, and eventually you'll hear a tone indicating that the code was cracked and you can return to open the door. Alternatively, you can kill time by playing games in the computer terminal, and I thought this was hilarious. There's a janky asteroids clone, a slide puzzle, and a breakout clone. I thought it was pretty funny. If you finish any of those games, it displays the message, "You win, big deal." I found the game to be quite interesting and fun, but I think the viewpoint perspective is a bit of a problem. It's set up like a side-scroller, but you can walk towards and away from the screen as well. The game does the best it can to show you via shadows what's in front of you, but it can be difficult to make out some things like doors. Also, the character sprites may be too big for the screen, since some of the enemies have the ability to damage you significantly while they're only halfway on the screen. It's also pretty easy to get lost in the maze itself, as there will be multiple exits in a level. And while some may take you into levels that you haven't been to yet, some may send you back to levels you've already been to. Despite these complaints, I'm still going to say the game is good and give it a 4. The whole idea of exploring room to room while running programs to crack door codes to proceed is actually a pretty good concept. Game 6 is Gates of Zendocon, which was originally released in 1989. This is a horizontal shoot 'em up with a couple of gimmicks up its sleeve. The evil spider Zendocon has captured you and trapped you in its web of 51 universes. In the first universe, Zendocon gives you a spaceship, and it's up to you to navigate all 51 alien universes. The game starts out pretty slow and easy, but the difficulty does ramp up over time. There are occasionally ship upgrades that will be encountered, but mostly you'll be stuck with the usual loadout of laser, bombs, and a shield. This arrangement is pretty interesting because the lasers and bombs are on the same button. So when you press the button, the laser will shoot and a bomb will deploy, but if you hold the button down, the laser will remain on, but no additional bombs will deploy. Bombs will only deploy when the button is pressed. You'll have to repeatedly tap the button if you want to continually deploy bombs, but if you don't need them, you could hold the button for a constant laser. Alternatively, you could use the shield as a defense, but it takes some time to deploy and you can't fire while using your shield. At the end of each level, you'll encounter a gate which will take you to the next level. But sometimes there will be multiple gates, some side by side, or one may be further into the level, and it's up to you to decide if you want to enter the first gate you see, or if you want to take your chances on another gate, because these gates do not lead to the same destination. One nice touch in the game is that your ship shows physical damage as it gets hit, and it may affect how you play. As an example, I took a pretty bad hit in one level, and it destroyed the front of my ship, and as a result, I was unable to fire the laser weapon. Crazy enough, when you finish the level and enter the gate, you have the option of docking the ship and getting a new one, or continuing on with the ship you have. Sometimes there is a certain risk to docking, so you might wind up losing a life instead. In the end, I'll say this is a good game and give it a 4. There is certainly some creativity in this game, but it does feel slow and boring at some times. Game 7 is Todd's Adventure in Slime World, which was originally released in 1990. This is a side-scrolling platformer type of game wherein you control Todd, who is exploring Slime World in several different scenarios, but basically the goal in each is to get to the end of the level. Todd is equipped with a water gun to spray down the slimy bad guys, but can also pick up other useful items such as a jetpack, slime shields, and gun power-ups. Better be careful while dispatching those slimy creatures, however, as they will explode, spewing slime everywhere, and that will hurt you if you come into contact with it. The more slime Todd is covered in, the more he will change to green, and once he reaches his limit, he will explode into slime himself. But you can continue from your last checkpoint. Fortunately, you can clean yourself with a slime shield or by finding a pool of water and taking a dunk in it. Watch out for the red slime though, that will kill you instantly. Graphically, this game looks amazing for the Lynx. The walls of Slime World are always pulsating and oozing and dripping with slime. Even the background, though simple, is animated and gives the game much depth. Todd himself looks good and is animated very well. You could easily tell how much slime is on him, and I get a chuckle every time he cleans himself off in a puddle of water. The game controls very well, and exploring Slime World is very fun given Todd's climbing ability and access to the auto-filling map that you're given. The 6 adventures you are provided each offer a different type of challenge, whether it be action-based, exploration-based, or puzzle-solving based. The only downside really is that it seems like this game had a pretty in-depth multiplayer element that's not accessible currently on the Evercade. But that's alright because the single-player variations are extremely solid and fun to play. Todd's adventure in Slime World easily gets a 5. The last game on the cart is Zarlor Mercenary, and this was originally released in 1990. This is a vertical shoot 'em up where you get to select from a variety of different characters. Unlike the previous shoot 'em up on the list, Gates of Zendocon, there are several different power-ups in this game, and the difference between all the characters, other than the ship design, is that each one permanently always has one of the power-ups. The other characters can still get the other power-ups, but they must be collected in the game or purchased in between levels. But if you lose a ship, you also lose your power-ups, unless it's the one that's assigned to the character you've selected. As a result, this makes it so that all the characters are basically the same, but also, due to a technical detail, also makes it so that there's one character that I'll always choose over the others, and I'll elaborate on that detail a little bit later. First, I want to talk about the controls. You have one button to fire a standard shot, and one button to fire a homing laser shot if you have that power-up. The problem is that there is no auto-fire, and you have to constantly be tapping the buttons. Well, that's not actually entirely true. There is auto-fire in the game, but it's a power-up, and it only works for your main weapon, not the laser fire. This is why I'll always pick Brenda in the game. Her permanently assigned power-up is auto-fire, though you still have to tap the button for the laser shot if you collect that power-up. As a result of this, this is the only game that I've played on the Evercade that really hurts my thumbs after a while. Aside from that, I feel the game is just way too difficult and janky. The first level's fine, but I never made it past the second level, and I find that kind of surprising because this isn't one of those one hit and you're dead type of shoot 'em ups. You have a pretty generous health bar, and when you die it throws you right back in the action, even during boss battles. But the problem is that the game just constantly pelts you with enemy fire that's difficult to avoid, and there's even kamikaze style enemy attacks where the ships are difficult to destroy before they ram into you. With all of that and my thumbs cramping up after playing for a while, I cannot say it's a good game. But still, I don't think I want to call it a bad game either, as I feel I could potentially improve over time. I'm just going to give this one a 3 and say it's okay. Alright, and that's going to wrap it up for the Atari Lynx Collection 2. Out of the 8 games in this cartridge, I thought 3 were great, 3 were good, and 2 that were just okay. But nothing that I found either poor or bad. So we got a really good collection of games on our hands in here, especially since there was such a wide variety of games as well, especially games I thought were really, really good on this cartridge. The standouts were Chip's Challenge and Checkered Flag and Todd's Adventure in Slime World. If I had to pick like my favorite out of this whole collection, it's probably going to be Checkered Flag, although Chip's Challenge would probably be a close second. I guess it depends on what kind of genre you like more, and I think I like the racing genre just a little bit more. But yeah, let's wrap it up. This was Lynx Collection 2. And yeah, I'm a little bit flabbergasted because I'm actually caught up now with all the games, all the Evercade cartridges I have, and I actually have to wait for the next one now. This is the first. I don't know how long I've been doing this. Months. We've covered 14 cartridges, and now I'm waiting for the next one. And that next one is going to be the Zendocon Collection one. I definitely will be collecting, or at least attempting to collect every single Evercade cartridge, and I will continue doing this, time permitting. So yeah, let's wrap it up, and I'll see you all next time. Bye.